Want to expand the reach of your content? Start a podcast. Feature industry experts on your show and leverage the influence and reach of your guests to grow your brand. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to B2B Growth. I am your host for today's episode, Nikki Ivy with Sweetfish Media. Guys, I've got with me today Daniel Incandela, who is Chief Marketing Officer at Conga. Daniel, how you doing today?
I'm good. Excited to chat with you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're going to get into it. This is going to be fun. So we talk on this show a lot about sales and marketing alignment, but you had this experience where you had just identified this situation, this crunch that marketers were in, right? That you termed assembly line marketing. So guys, we're going to talk about why assembly line marketing needs to die. But before we get to all of that, Daniel, I would love it if you would just give us a little bit of background on yourself and what you and the folks at Conga have been up to these days.
Sure. So I am 11 months in as Chief Marketing Officer at a company called Conga. And we simplify the act of creating documents, managing contracts, and capturing e-signatures. So if you think about how companies are going through their own digital transformations at the moment, it's a really hot topic. Conga works hand in hand with our customers to guide them through the digital document transformation. And if you think about it, businesses run on documents. It's a critical piece of that. So I'm really excited, almost a year into a company that is high growth, has customers that love them, and is developing truly innovative products. So that's where I am now. I have a pretty interesting background. I have an undergrad degree in anthropology. I spent 9 years in the museum field. I worked in auto racing, and I've been in the SaaS space for the last 7 years. So I'm kind of new to marketing and this whole SaaS stuff, but I love it. It moves so quickly. You have to be at the top of your game, and each quarter changes from the next. So you have to really think on your feet.
So you're like, if Indiana Jones were a marketer, I'm into it. I love it.
Yeah, if I was cool and brave and all of that stuff, yeah, that would.
You're plenty of those things. Look, it's a brave thing to do to take a stance like this. We talk to people a lot of the time who I have on this show and who we partner with and producing several other podcasts. And one of the themes that comes up a lot is this idea of taking a stance on something, right? Like not being at all ambiguous on how you feel. And this article that you wrote about, it's a manifesto. First of all, if you call it a manifesto, that's when you know you're about to get hit with some heat. But it's a manifesto against assembly line marketing. I need to know, paint the picture for us, Daniel, of where you were in your heart and mind and environment when you came up with that idea and were just so moved to write about this topic.
Oh, it comes from, I think, for me, years of experience of being at companies where operating as a service center, which is what marketing does, and in the marketing space. And I'll put it this way. One of my last boss, a gentleman named Matt Blumberg, said this to me. He said, marketing is like this. He's like, you always have room for one more French fry. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, you always have room for another French fry, right? I'm like, of course. He's like, that's marketing. Everyone is always going to have a request for marketing. Everyone is always going to have an idea. And that is important. So everything I'm about to say does not take away from the fact that marketing is there to serve the company. Like, I'm really proud of that and taking care of our stakeholders. We're also on the hook to drive meaningful pipeline, drive incredible brand awareness, and contribute to the culture. Those are my three main pillars of marketing. And that is really hard to do. And so when I think about the scrutiny that marketing's under, it is often misunderstood. People assume that we design stuff and spend a lot of money and have a ton of t-shirts. But the fact is, we can now fully report on how we're contributing to pipeline, new business, the ROI on every dollar spent. It is now a data world. So marketing's in a whole new space where they can drive strategy based on data. And we have a ton of data now. And so the fact is, everyone wants marketing to drive strategy or at least contribute to it. But we're getting hamstrung because of all these requests. And it's always a priority. It's always the latest fire. It's always the thing that has to be done by the end of the day. And for me, it's impossible to be successful. I'm still fairly new in this role. I want to make sure that the board and my boss loves what marketing is doing. And in order for us to have the biggest impact, we have to be strategic. We can't do that if we're just running around taking orders. So it wasn't written as a diss to anyone else across companies or stakeholders. It's a call to arms and a call for help to saying, hey, marketing should be part of the team driving strategy. We can't do it if we don't have the time to breathe.
That's right. I think that's right. And I think that the more folks take this collaborative approach between all stakeholders in the overall revenue growth team, your sales and marketing teams, I think that starts to make more sense. And sometimes it's just as simple as, having meetings together instead of having separate meetings where the information is then downloaded and things are lost in translation. Because what you just talked about, so let's say, as I'm sure it happens in most organizations, right? Marketing's got together, they've got their ducks in a row in terms of, how to prove ROI dollar for dollar for what they spend. They've got their strategy. And then some salesperson walks up to them and is like, hey, at this conference we went to, our competitors had fidget spinners. Can we get fidget spinners? Like, it's just like, come on, dog. Like, and sometimes it's that little, but other times it's much bigger things. Like you said, there's this urgency behind everyone else's goals, as if to say that marketing's goals are somehow less of a priority, when in fact, marketing's goals are the goals of the rest of the revenue growth teams. So give us some more. That was my example, because I've been the girl asking for fidget spinners. But give us some more examples of what types of things contribute to that assembly line marketing, where you guys are just taking orders.
Yeah, I mean, let's keep going with fidget spinners, right? Like, for every fidget spinner request, there's another and another and another. So one strategy I have taken is I realized very quickly, look, if you're going to be in marketing, you're going to have plenty of ideas and plenty of other people that think they can market, which is absolutely fine. We want ideas. So one is, you should lead a really transparent organization. At this stage in our careers and with companies, we've never had so much data at our fingertips. So be transparent with that. So anyone at Conga can see into marketing's dashboards how much pipeline we're creating, how much new business we're contributing to, what is the ROI on certain channel spends, what is it producing. So one thought is, look, we will make that transparent. If we're doing well, then great, you can tell us that. But if we are lacking in any area, I am open to someone coming to me and saying, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Because it is our role as one of the strategic centers of the company to deliver for the company. We have to take that seriously. And so I think if you lead with more of an ROI and data approach, it does establish some credibility, so that if someone does come ask for a fidget spinner, it's an easy decision. It can be either, hey, we've already ordered those, don't worry about it, or look, we've decided against doing that because our research shows that we should do this instead. And so at no point do I ever want it to be that marketing should not get feedback. We need it. But what I want to do is direct the conversation towards a winning strategy.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I don't want anybody suggesting things to me and then me not understanding where that suggestion is coming from. Yeah. And it is most effective if that suggestion is driven by some common result goal. So if, my neighbor is sitting next to me, I made a lot of cold calls in my day. So if someone has an SDR, my neighbor sitting next to me hears me on a call and says, hey, you should say it this way instead of that way. That holds a lot more weight if you're telling me X amount of people have said it this way and that's been successful, and that's why you should say it that way. Not just this person's, subjective opinion as to what had happened because this would be fun. And a lot of the time, the suggestions that from depending on what the role is of the person that's coming to marketing with a suggestion. A lot of the time it is just they saw something that looked cool and thought it would work, or that, that discipline is in trouble and not hitting their number and it's starting to roll downhill. They're looking for some sort of way to justify what's going on versus just having a more collaborative conversation. And again, like, I get where you're coming from. And I know that the spirit of anyone who's read this article that you wrote, there is no spirit of opposition in this. It is all love. Like, it is all, let's figure this thing out so we all get to the place that we all want to get to together. So if I sound like I'm speaking a little harshly, know that I'm being hard on myself, because as I said, I was one of the people making these unsolicited suggestions. I mean, I remember this, oh my goodness, this gentleman at a company I worked at called Qualia. I was just so excited about what I had seen the marketing team do at the company that I was at before, that the first day I met this guy, is so embarrassing. The first day I met this guy, the CMO, I sit him down and show him this other completely unrelated industry, completely unrelated product. I didn't know what I was talking about, but I was just like, look, so this is what their landing page looks like. And I think ours should maybe look like, I mean, it was so out of line, but I know that even then I was coming from just this place of being excited and saying, hey, if what we're trying to get to is this kind of machine like they had, I've seen that work and this is what it looks like. But yeah, it wasn't coming from any data-driven place, which is why I should have known to just say nothing. But give us, other than coming from a data-driven place, I want more. What else can CMOs and marketing teams do to avoid becoming assembly line marketers? Because no one wants to feel like they're constantly, like that's their purpose, to just take requests. What can we do?
Well, I think back to your landing page example with the CMO, it's, my experience with that is that 99% of the time, it's not coming from a malicious place. It's just someone that is excited about their job, that thinks it might help, right? And so I never want to discourage passion from anyone. Like that, we are here to listen and make that come true. I do think that in some ways, no, for sure, the modern CMO needs to rebrand marketing within companies. And I think marketing is often misunderstood. And I think historically, we've done a poor job of really reporting out on the impact that we can have. And this is a totally different age. Those days are over. So a lot of it for me comes back to, how do you establish transparency to the rest of the company so that anyone can know what's happening? You lead with data so that the data reveals the story for you. The data doesn't lie. The data also informs the strategy. And then a CMO needs to articulate a vision and a strategy for the marketing organization and the company that is going to drive success. And for me, that is meaningful pipeline, brand awareness, and contributing to a culture. And so if you're doing those things, a CMO is also a storyteller. You are inspiring the rest of the company. You're getting buy-in. You're getting stakeholders to provide input to help shape that. When you're doing that, then it allows you to direct the marketing resources to something that people believe in for the company. And that one is not only inspiring, but it's motivating. It creates a really energetic environment. But back to there's always room for one more fry. When someone comes in with a new request that differs from that strategy, it makes it a much easier conversation.
For sure.
I don't want people to come in and immediately it's a no. Or like, we would never do that, so please go away. It's more like, it should be a conversation and a collaboration. But if it does divert from a vision that the company's bought into, it absolutely should be no.
Yeah.
And if you look at the research of all the C-level executives, CMOs have the shortest tenure. Often they're under some of the most pressure because they have to change an organization. And so if you're not doing that, you're not helping yourself. Mm-hmm. And I love my job. I love being at Conga. I plan on being here for a while. And so for me, that's why I wrote that. It's kind of a rebrand of marketing, and I want to drive strategy. I don't want to take orders.
I love it so much. What a strong stance to take on this, and what a necessary one. And here's the thing, like B2B marketing and sales is going through, I talk about this a lot on this show, sort of this identity shift. Everybody is redefining who we are. We as salespeople are, thank God, in recovery, some of us in hangover from hustle porn culture. And so for marketing to have its own iteration or version of what that identity shift looks like, I think is really important and empowering. And I'm glad that you came to talk to us about it. Because what happens is those teams, right, sales teams, are on up through, even the VP level, director level salespeople. When it comes to vision, like you just mentioned, we're most familiar with the CEO's version of the vision or the founder, but we are very rarely put in front of or given access to the CMO's vision. And I think the more that is made visible to sales teams and across the organization, then the more trust there's going to be. If I've been invited into your vision as the CMO and given access to this same dream and goal and help to understand how it is essentially the same, goal as what I'm going for, that I'm far less likely to, make these little suggestions or to feel like you need my little suggestions. The trust has been built. You know what I'm saying? That's how once I get that, you guys get that buy-in, then, I don't have any reason to say anything to marketers about fidget spinners, because I know I trust that they've already looked into it and I don't have better ideas than them about this. Now, again, there's room within that for this fun, excited passion, to come and share ideas. But the trust and the collaboration has got to be stepped up. And I think it starts just like what you talked about, where CMOs take a stand, take initiative and say, hey, we're going to redefine what modern marketing is. Thank you so much for laying that out the way that you did. Before I move on to the next segment, I would just like to hear, first of all, congrats on your 1 year anniversary there in your role, but any parting wisdom on this idea for maybe someone else who's starting their first quarter as a CMO, or who's starting on a team as on a larger marketing team as a generalist, as far as how they can contribute to redefining the vision of what a modern marketer is.
Yeah, I think you actually just said it. A lot of what we've been talking about so far comes down to trust. And I think when I was talking about how the modern CMO they need to rebrand marketing, it's because a lot of organizations mistrust marketing, whether that's right or wrong. But if you're a marketer joining an organization or a CMO coming in and to lead it, the most important thing you need to do is establish trust across the organization. Because without that, you don't stand a chance. And that's why I've really stressed transparency and use of data and defining a vision. Because if you're adhering to that and meeting those goals and the processes and everything in between, then you are slowly building trust. Doesn't mean everyone's going to like you or believe in what you're doing, but you're at least establishing trust, and that leads to the ability of collaboration and direct conversations. And that is really hard to do in businesses at times. So my insight is what I just stole from you. So thank you.
I love it. I love it to death. I think we're on our way to something, sales and marketing.
Let's do
harmony
it.
And everybody getting what they need. I love it. So now that I have, Daniel, that I successfully picked your brain and seen what I could get out of it, it is time for you to tell us about what you are putting in it. So talk to us about a resource that you've engaged with, or just something that's happening in your life that has, informed your approach, or that's just got you excited these days.
Yeah. So I travel a fair amount, so I rely on audio things. So a lot of podcasts that I listen to. I think my favorite is probably How I Built This. Just understanding what entrepreneurs have to go through to get to the finish line. It's very similar to what we have to go through within software. So that's a regular thing for me. Listen to a lot of audiobooks. So Speed of Trust is one that I just finished, which is a lot of what we've been talking about so far already. And then I think the one that's had the biggest impact on me, and one I talk about frequently, is Creativity Inc., which is the leadership and creative style of what happens inside Pixar. And that really taught me how to be a leader that is open to feedback from everyone, where ideas can come from anywhere. And more importantly is is focus on suspending the ego from decision making to just focus on what's best. Yeah. And that is something I'm really passionate about. I adhere to servant leadership. Mentorship is really important to me. So another reason I like to be transparent is because I want feedback. I want criticism. Like I want to be the best, and I can't do that if people aren't direct with me.
I love it. Daniel, you've got a lot in common with me and a lot of the values of Sweetfish Media. I'm so glad that you came on to talk about this really, really important topic with us. Yeah. And I know that just like me, folks listening are becoming fast fans of yours and they're going to want to know how to keep in touch with you. Let us know how folks can connect with you, Daniel.
Yeah, so I think I'm the only Daniel Incandela. So if you search that, you're going to get pointed in the right place. I'm pretty active on Twitter, which is @Daniel Incandela.
Perfect. All right. Good stuff. We'll have to have you on again when you write your next manifesto, or once we've successfully navigated as marketers and salespeople this inflection point that we're at, and we'll all look back and have a laugh. Yeah. Thank you so much for being on the show, man. Have a good one.
Thanks so much for having me.
We totally get it. We publish a ton of content on this podcast, and it can be a lot to keep up with. That's why we've started the B2B Growth Big Three, a no-fluff email that boils down our 3 biggest takeaways from an entire week of episodes. Sign up today at sweetfishmedia.com/big3. That's sweetfishmedia.com/big3.